Hi everyone, it's Erin from the Provincial Farmhouse. Thank you for joining me. Today we are going to create a Christmas birdhouse using the new IOD molds and transfer. This is what we're starting with. It's just a plain little wooden birdhouse with a metal roof, and we are going to use the Holly Lane and Christmas Valley transfer and Dixie Belle paint. Here I am applying Dixie Belle's Barn Red to the roof of the birdhouse. Now the roof is made of metal. If this was going to be an item that was going to get a lot of use, I would have used a bonding primer, but this is just going to sit on a shelf and look pretty, and the Dixie Belle chalk mineral paint has great adhesion, so I'm not worried about it sticking. I will apply 2 coats of this, letting it dry in between, and then letting it dry completely before starting the next step. Next, I'm using Dixie Belle's Fluff chalk mineral paint on the base. I wanted a somewhat bright colour to contrast nicely with the roof, so I'm going to apply 2 coats of this, and again letting it dry well in between coats, and then adding a clear coat over the top of both layers. You can see here that I'm not adding paint to the front part of the roof. This is because we are going to cover it with molds. So we're using the Holly Lane mold here. I've used cornstarch to help make sure that it doesn't get stuck. I'm using the IOD air dry clay, and I'm pressing and working the clay in and using that micro rim to ensure that I get a nice clean edge. Then I am going to flip it over and use gravity and curl the mold back to help it release. So I'm going to manipulate the Holly Lane garland here very carefully. The clay is still wet, so it is flexible. I'm going to carefully manipulate it and work it so that it fits in the space that I want. I do have to break off a tiny little bit here that I reuse a bit further down, and I'm just gently bending the holly back where I want it. I still want a few bits showing forward, and I'm going to use a good quality wood glue to adhere it to the metal. I decided to cast a couple more molds from the Holly Lane mold to add down the bottom and on the sides. I didn't want to go overboard with this, so I just did a couple. I glued these additional molds down using the same multi-purpose glue. Next, I used a small artist brush to apply Dixie Belle's Palmetto chalk mineral paint to the holly leaves, and then another artist brush to apply barn red to the little holly berries. And I repeated this on the sides and the front, and I wasn't too careful about how I placed it because I was going for a sort of rustic imperfect look. I decided to add some elements from the Christmas Valley transfer, so I had a little look through the pages and I absolutely adore those little birds, so I decided to cut out a couple of those and to experiment and work out which one might be suitable for the front. I only wanted one. I didn't want it to overwhelm the birdhouse, so I decided on the little brown bird, and I thought it would make a cute addition. I was having a play with these before I added those extra holly molds down the bottom. So again, when you're doing a project like this, you just want to sort of experiment and just see where the project takes you. So I decided on the little brown bird and I was adding it to the front. So I carefully peeled back the backing of the transfer and held it just above the paint until I was happy where it was. You really want to make sure you're happy with it before you press down. Then I was just sort of working it and burnishing it with my transfer stick into the little grooves that were above the holly until I was happy with it. And then I just gave it a little bit of a rub with the plastic backing. I decided to add some barn red to the little perch stick on the front of the birdhouse. I thought that was a nice little pop of colour there. I also painted little pine cones with Dixie Belle's chocolate chalk mineral paint. To add a little bit of interest and weathering, I used Dixie Belle's Anchor Silk Mineral Paint on one of the Vintage Textures stamp, and I'm just lightly pressing it on the sides and a little bit on the front and back just to give it that little bit of a vintage look. I gave the birdhouse a little bit of a sand as well to fade some of the stamp and to distress some of the edges. I decided to soften the look a little bit further by using Dixie Belle's white Best Dang Wax. I'm using a chip brush and working it into the details of the holly and then wiping back the flat portions so that there's just white left in the little recesses, just to tone it down a little bit and soften it. And I also added it to the pine cones on the side. I used it on the roof to make it look a little bit like a sort of speckling of snow. And here I'm using Dixie Belle's Gold Gilding Wax just on the little finer details. I'm using my finger to lightly rub it on certain areas. I'm not being too heavy. I just want a little bit of a hint of gold. Next, I'm adding Dixie Belle's white Best Dang Wax over the top of the Vintage Textures stamp just to soften it a little bit. And here's the finished product. I'm really happy with this sweet little birdhouse, and the Holly Lane mold really took it to another level, and that little bird from the Christmas Valley transfer looks adorable. I really hope that you guys like how this turned out and that maybe it's inspired you to give a Christmas birdhouse a go yourself. I would love it if you would hit that like button. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. I'd love it if you could hit that subscribe button too, so you can see all the other projects that we're going to be doing this festive season, and also some furniture makeovers. You can find all the IOD products and the Dixie Belle paint products that I used in this on our website, theprovincialfarmhouse.com.au, and you can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and TikTok. Thanks for watching.